You're back once again with your boys, James May and Jeremy Clarkson. What was it like being back together again, causing mischief?
Oh, it was great to be back on the road. I mean, we did make 2 specials during sort of lockdown conditions. And actually, I was really pleased with them. We all were, because it was almost us unplugged. We couldn't fall back on saying, wow, we've got this incredible landscape and a desert and a volcano. It was just us 3 middle-aged car bores. So it reminded us what's at the heart of the show, which is our love of cars. But as we've said right from the start, you don't have to be a car nerd to watch our show, because we do that for you. But we have to maintain our love of the subject central to the show, which we did. And that sort of fired us up. So I think that carried over into this one. So we're back to traveling, and you've got spectacular scenery and exciting events, but also there's that car element still there. So if you are a car nerd, we're not neglecting our petrol head core audience, but we're taking our broader audience with us on a big adventure, I hope.
The special is called a Scandi Flick. Tell us, Richard, what is a Scandi Flick and can you do one?
Well, yeah, it's a term from rallying, particularly Scandinavian flick, which is a way of, if you've got a right-hand turn, bear with me, I can hear you glazing over. If you've got a tight right-hand turn coming up, yep, just before, if you turn that right-hand car, you're going to hope the front end of the car will go in. If you turn left, you'll set the car that way and then throw it in that way. You can provoke the back end round, and you can provoke the car to turn in more heavily and more positively into the corner. Plus, it looks really cool and people think you are great when you do it. Yes, I can do it.
The 90-minute special sees the 3 of you racing across Norway, Sweden and Finland. So what can viewers expect?
Well, there's a lot of ice, a lot of snow, a lot of cold. It's a spectacular part of the world, it really is. And it's very nice to take people there with us. And there's a real sense of us doing that, because we've worked with the same crew, some of them for like 20 years. So we all know each other very, very well, which means we know when something happens unexpectedly, which thankfully it does always, they will get it. And that's key, because it's not actually a stag holiday. We're making a TV show. We've got to know we're taking people with us. And thanks to them, we know that we are. So that it's great to see something happens, a crash, car going through the ice, something going wrong, which happens all the time. We know they will be capturing it. So we can just stay in the moment, which is, we're lucky.
The region you guys are driving through is known as Europe's last great wilderness. Did it feel like that to you?
Well, at first it didn't feel like Europe's great last wilderness. But then it did, particularly when the weather comes in and has its say, when suddenly you can't see a damn thing and you really are lost and I don't know, we better stop here. So yeah, it did have a wilderness feel to it eventually, absolutely. And it was always disorientating when you're anywhere where you can't tell the sky from the ground, whether that's a sandstorm in a desert or a whiteout in an Arctic situation. It's alarming.
You, of course, have seriously injured yourself a couple of times whilst filming with James and Jeremy, back in 2006 and again, of course, in 2017. In fact, the lads joked during the show about never getting into a car with you, but it wasn't you who needed the ambulance this time around, was it?
No. From an unexpected quarter steps forward the new king of crashing. And it turns out to be a certain elderly gentleman by the name of James May. I know. He binned it. It's like, what? That was a surprise to us all. I suspect also to him. Yeah, what a moment.
Driving deep inside the Arctic Circle must have presented some serious challenges, from like speeding snowplows to blizzards. Was it what you were expecting, and how difficult was it driving in those conditions?
To a degree, it's what we were expecting. We have to know roughly what we're expecting, simply because we're making a really big, really expensive television program. And if we were to set off saying, "I'll probably be all right," something like that. So we knew broadly, but we were surprised how quickly the weather comes in. I was also surprised, right, because some of it, we're on roads, but they're under snow and ice. In where we live, if there's like an inch of snow or a millimetre of ice, the whole world is, that's it, stop, don't go out. It's incredibly dangerous, you must stay in. But there, they'll just be out, if it's just covered in snow and ice, driving at 70 miles an hour quite happily, as if it was just normal, because they grow up with it, which was a big surprise. So that took our breath away. That was an unexpected challenge.
I don't know if you're allowed to tell us, but about halfway through a Scandi Flick, Jeremy has a brainwave to make the challenge even more difficult. Any clues for the viewers at home?
Are you talking about our accommodation?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we can mention it. Well, we'd watched early on in the show, we were on a frozen lake. I think that was shortly after we'd been towing some skiers behind our cars. Don't ask, and I would never do it. You'd have to be, totally mad. But we watched some people towing what turned out to be fishing huts out onto the ice, and they're little huts on skis, because of course a caravan wouldn't work. It'd slither about on wheels. And we thought, wait a minute. Well, no, a certain Clarkson thought, wait a minute, that could work for us. There's going to be nowhere to stay. We might have to stop suddenly because if the weather comes in, you can't press on. So we needed our accommodation and a way of taking it with us. So we did, by building our own little homes on skis and towing them behind our cars. And you can imagine, and it was great fun, but mostly out of control, entirely out of control.
Without giving too much away, there are quite a few pranks being played between the three of you. What I want to know is, do you think you ever take it too far?
Yeah, because it's what we expect. If one of us says or does something particularly bad to the other, if you are the other, a little bit of you is always thinking, yeah, well, I'd do the same to you. And you know it. So you can't explode about it. You've got to take it on the chin, because that's what we're about. That's what we do. So yeah, if one of them gets one over on me, part of me is dealing with the discomfort or the fear or the anger of it happening, but the rest of me is thinking, yeah, that's going to look really funny. And to be fair, I'd do the same to him anyway. So what's lost?
One thing I've learned about you, Richard, after watching this is that you're not what we would call an expert skier. Any plans to take to the slopes in the future?
I'm from Birmingham. People from Birmingham don't go skiing. That's for James Bond. I mean, we don't do that. I'm not. I honestly, I'd quite like to, but every time I see it, I think, what's to be done, really? I mean, gravity is doing most of the work, and a lack of friction is working along with it to make it happen. Yeah, if you put something on a slope that's slippery, it's going to go down. And I don't feel the need to prove physics consistently. Plus, I'd almost certainly smash myself to bits the day I tried it. So no plans as yet. But no, I'm not a big skier. It's not my comfort zone.